Hello. We have filmed so many bunnies.
We have
Many bunnies. We have the bunny puff,
tasty.
the poof,
Yes.
which is kind of like a stylized Angora. We have the basket bunny. We have the 2D snowshoe hare. We have sleepy bunnies, which I didn't bring a sleepy bunny back here.
Can I tell you something about all this bunny happening?
Mm-hmm.
We have depleted the internet of rabbit jokes.
Yes. Maybe we'll have to look for facts, proverbs.
I mean, I do feel like we maybe did that too.
Okay, well, we'll just talk about platypus.
I mean, that could work.
So today we are showing you the 3D snowshoe hare. They're about 1/3 life size. So it's a 2 to 3, a level 2 to 3. It's a step up from the basket bunny, more technique. We've got wired ears. We've got using pre-felt and seeds on the feet. And I'm using a pelt technique. In the past, I have also done a shingle or fur technique. So I think I'm going to show that. I'm going to show the pelt and demonstrate the fur. This scale, it's just a little small to go full on fur, which we can they see these?
I believe so.
Which is what I did on. He was supposed to be life size, but he ended up a little big.
Well, bigger is better.
A little big. So we have a supply pack. We were going to do the brown hare, this guy here, and the snowshoe hare as one, but then I realized they're just very different, and I want to do an in-depth tutorial for each one. So keep your eyes peeled for the brown hare. Today we're going to work on the snowshoe hare. Like I said, it's going to sort of bump your techniques up to the next level if you hadn't done anything in the level 3 range. And I think we can just get started since you're jokeless.
Oh, I'm jokeless, but your hair does look great today.
So does yours. I feel like we kind of match today.
It's good.
Yeah.
All the hairs is great.
Thank you.
All around.
Thank you.
We rolling?
Yeah, we are. We have a new camera arm, which nobody cares or knows about, but we're hoping it's going to help with the overhead process.
Yeah, we're always up in our game around here. All right, let's go.
Yes, let's go. You got your remote control, Milo?
We all ready.
In addition to the supply pack, you will need felting needles and a felting surface, but you should know that because this should not be your first project. And I've been using my 38, my 40, my 42, and on this project, a reverse needle. I'm also using, at times, the Zoli tool and the Face Ace. Not totally necessary. You can make shapes without them, but very handy. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the wire out of my supply pack. We have some blending colors, and we have 3 whites. We have off-white chunky core. We have Serafina white. Ooh, you can see the difference. That's good. And then we have our house carded pelt called Snow Hare, which is really soft. It has silk and mohair, alpaca. It's got a lot of wonderful fibers in it. And then we have a piece of pre-felt. And your pre-felt is going to be your pelt, part of it, your pelt, your ears, and all 4 feet. I did end up using the pre-felt on all 4 feet. So this is a merino pre-felt. It's really handy in helping to make like kind of broad skin-like. Okay, we have 22 gauge wire.
You have a lot of wires.
I know,
going on
it's
there.
a little crazy. It shouldn't look so crazy. It should look more easy. So this is a 22 gauge wire. You'll feel the difference. This is for the ears. This is thicker. One pipe cleaner, you'll see when we get there on the armature. And then two 26 gauge wires. And these are for all the legs. Now I'm using a reinforcing wire. So this kit has three wires, three 14 gauge wires, a short, a medium, and a long. So that's the long, that's the medium, and this is the short. The short is a reinforcement for the hind legs because I want this to be strong so that they could stand on their hind legs if we wanted them to. But let me go grab a finished armature so you can see where we're heading and also my notes.
Oh, that would be helpful.
Okay, so this is where we're headed. I haven't totally finished the feet yet, but that's what we're shooting for. The snowshoe hare is more compact than the brown hare just because of climate. They are trying to stay warm, so everything's all tucked in together. I'm going to start with the wires, by the way, I always list the first wire is the head and front legs, and that's 20 inches. The second wire is the torso and hind legs, that's 28. And then the third wire is the support wire for the hind legs, and that's 16. So we're going to start with the 20-inch wire. Find the center. Hopefully you've made an armature or two because I'm going to skip through all the beginner armature info. And we want to twist 3 1/4 inches for the head and neck. Oh my gosh.
You're just hopping right to it.
I know, and I'm gonna keep hopping up because we just grab a little, one of the little rulers is fine.
Yep.
I'm gonna guess. Let's see. I don't think I'm quite there yet. Let's see how my spidey senses are. Oh, I was there. I'm a little long. Okay. And then the neck is about 1.5 inches. And then the head is turned to get a little bit of that domed shape and their just front muzzle right there. With the long wire, we're going to find the center, and this is going to twist to be the shoulders, and that's what locks our 2 wires together. And I do 2 twists on each side. So I want this to come around 1, 2 times. I put the wire right onto the base of the neck, the V of that wire.
If your stabit looks tiny, she's using the mega.
I'm using the mega. Just
for point of reference.
So I have about 5 inches of leg wire left just to make sure you're on track. And then I'm going to take these 2 long wires back. I always leave this triangle because the whole point is to get a little bit of width between the front legs to represent, what we have, our collarbones and our rib cage and everything in there. And then from the front leg, so from this wire to the end of the twist, I want to go 5 inches. I'm not quite there yet. So I'm at 5 inches. And then I just round that a little bit because that's the way they are. So my hind legs, I have about 7 inches, 7 inches of wire left. Now I'm going to take this third wire, the shortest one, and find the center. I like this, Milo. I think it looks good the way we have the camera today. I feel like it's good.
I think it's good.
When I twist these wires together, I try to think about the direction that I wrap my wool. It's not totally imperative, but try to do sort of loose. You don't need to crank these together like real tight. And I'm just gonna wrap pretty much the whole way down, and then I'll see where I am once I shape my leg, how I wanna handle these 2 wires. This is the side that I usually end up twisting the wrong way. What you doing?
I'm just looking, well, cause see, we're flipped upside down, so then when I edit, I'll have to flip back upside down. So I'm making sure we're straight up and down, or it'll be weird. I think we're good.
Straight up and down. Okay. I hope so. Okay. Now we're gonna make some leg shapes. Let's do the hind legs first since they're sticking in my face. There's 3 bends. So we've got a knee or the stifle, so that's 2 inches. And then to the hock is 2 inches. And then the foot with the loop is going to be about 2.5 inches. So 2, I'm exaggerating the bends a little bit, just so that we can see them. So a forward bend, a backward bend, and then with the foot loop, we want this to be 2.5 from the back of the ankle to the end of the foot. So that's where I'm gonna fold this one around at 2.5. And then this wire, the short wire, I'm just gonna cut. It's gonna end up getting absorbed in wool. So the less wire you can have, let me see if I can show how that looks. The less wire you have in your animal's foot, the better. Like you don't want a ton of wire that you have to try to stab through. Two and a half. And then I'm just gonna cut this one out. So what I ended up doing there was one wire was a little longer. That's the one I bent around for the end of the foot. And the shorter wire, I just cut. Okay, the front legs, we want at 1¼ inches an elbow. So it's a little kind of backwards bend. And then 2 inches from that is kind of the wrist. And then we want a 1/2 inch loop for the foot. So I usually give myself about 1 inch of wire, so I'm cutting off about a 1/2 inch wire. Yours might be a little different. So I give myself about 1 inch of wire so that when I turn it around into a loop, it's about a 1/2 inch loop. Just make sure you turn your loop to the side. Either side is fine. You don't want it like curled up like an elf shoe. So that is our armature. Now, with a 20, we have the 2/26 gauge. I'm just checking my notes. I'm gonna find the center of one and put it over the butt and just wrap down the leg. You could tacky wrap this before you start or after. Again, I'm wrapping in the same direction so that it just falls into the twists of the wire armature. And when I get to the toe, all I want to do is have this wire fold over the end of the toe, so that when we put our wool on, there's a little bit of grab there.
You're using that, not a pipe cleaner for...
Because of the length. I mean, I could use a pipe cleaner on each leg.
Okay.
Could do that.
I didn't know if it was because the pipe cleaner was thicker.
That too. I mean, these legs aren't super skinny, but it just goes farther. And then another reason is on the brown hair, because they're not so floofy and furry, you see a lot more of their
Yep.
features. So when I do this part on the front legs, this extra, I'm making a little tendon with.
Oh.
So that's the other reason. Okay, so on the front legs, we have some extra. So I'm just cutting it off and then turning that back. Again, I like to wrap my wire in the direction that I wrap my wool so that when it goes on, everything is aligned and smooth. Then your pipe cleaner just goes from the butt to the nose. I don't do anything at the chest here. I usually come up between the front legs and then continue my wrap. My head twist is always the opposite direction of my pipe cleaner wire. I don't know why. We're ready for wool.
Oh, wow. You just hopped right to it.
Okay, the first fiber that we want to use, your 22 gauge wire goes in a little bit. It's actually, the ears are the first finished thing we have to do because we have to get them on the head before we get too far. So you're going to open up your bundle, off-white core bundle, and just like every other animal, we've got to get some fiber on here. So I'm going to work with a 6-inch piece quartered. Sometimes the off-white chunky core wool thickness has a little bit of variation. So, sometimes it's a little thicker, a little thinner. So your quarters might not look exactly like mine. But with a good bit of tension and a narrow ribbon, nice and tight, I'm wrapping down the front leg. When I get to the foot, I want to get a little bit of wool on there because I need to make his little padded feet later. So I'll do a little crisscross and then stop. I don't want it to get like too poofy, but a nice little bit of wool on there.
I'm zooming in a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, you can really like lay it right almost in between where the wire is, and that makes it even more smooth. So at the end of something, it's that crisscross that holds it down on there. And when I say crisscross, I just mean it's very subtle. Slightly this way, when you come around, slightly that way. All right, let's do the hind legs. These 6-inch pieces might not be quite enough. Let's actually set these other 2 quarters aside and get an 8-inch piece. And quarter that. On the hind legs, I often anchor around the body because it's so easy. It's not easy to do that on the front legs because of the shoulder twists. Uh-oh.
We have some barking ready to start. I feel like I might want to scoot a little bit because you're in like the lower.
Are you still zoomed?
I am. But the zooming is good. The people like to zoom.
Okay. Where do you want me to scoot to?
I want you to work comfortably. But I feel like I could scoot a little bit so that you're more in the center, even though you're working where you're working. Does that make sense? You have a tendency to work on the bottom half when you stab it.
Yes. So you're saying you want to scoot the whole camera?
I mean, I think I might.
Okay, let me finish this wrap.
For the people.
Let me consciously hold in the middle and finish this wrap. Okay, so you will see even my 8-inch piece wasn't quite enough. So we're going to use those 2 6-inch other quarters on the feet after we scoot the camera. I'm going to use the 2 6-inch quarters that we abandoned on the feet. So I'm just going to get another wrap just on this bottom part of the foot. Sometimes I like to curve the wire just slightly so that when I wrap, I can start to crisscross and get that sort of more like scooped, like knuckle shape. But they get a lot of foot going on after this wrap. But bulking up the bottom of the hind legs is good. I don't stab too much at this phase. I try to stab as little as possible and just use tight wrapping. So there's before and there's after. So start at the hock. I'm going out towards the toe. When I get out here, I'm doing a little back and forth, and then I'm going back towards the hock. Alrighty. We should still have 2 8-inch quarters. So I'm going to take one of those and start at the base of the neck and just wrap, following that head wire this time, just getting wool on the wire all the way to the end of the nose, and then turn around and whatever fiber is left, go back. Okay, this time I'm going to do that again, except I'm going to do a little crisscross wrap in the head. So that goes from the back of the head over the nose. And see how it puts fiber right in this vacant spot here. And then I'm going to go around the back of the head, and then I'm going to go over the nose. And that fills in some of this space. All right, we need a nice healthy 8-inch piece, and we're going to split it in half this time. And 1/2 is going to do the chest wrap, which is the same on all the animals. I start on the body behind the split. When you wrap this, don't pull so tight that you close this. You still want this space between their legs. I go over the body and over a shoulder. So I'm going over, but then I'm coming over this shoulder, and then I'm crossing over the shoulder and going under the opposite armpit. Then I'm going over the body again so that I can come under this armpit and over the opposite shoulder. And that made an X on the chest. If you're right-handed, it's gonna look different, and I apologize. It's like left-handed revenge on the world. Oh my gosh, I was trying to use the, a cordless drill, and it's just so interesting how
it doesn't.
You can't, with your left hand, the drill wants to shoot out of it because the torque goes the other way. These are my woes. Okay, the second half of that piece, we're just gonna go from, on the body, from where we started that, back towards the butt. Just nice and thick on the tight side. I mean, it's not all like a tight, skinny leg, but you still need these base layers to be tight so that when you stab into them, they are solid and fixed. We're gonna do that again. So an 8-inch piece, split in half. Oh, sorry, thank you, I dropped some.
I'm losing things.
I'm just gonna go from the butt forward this time. Just kind of go backwards. Which if your stuff wasn't tight, could be a little problematic, but I like to switch it up. And then with the other 8-inch piece, I'm gonna do the crisscross again. So I'm gonna go over the body, over the shoulder, under the armpit, over the body. So I have one going this way, so now I need to go under the armpit, over the shoulder to cross the other way. They have quite a deep chest, which we're gonna finish with shapes, but this gives it a good start. Top of my leg came a little loose. Okay. With a 6-inch piece of fiber, let's split it in half and stretch those out. We're gonna get a little bit of wool on the tops of the legs here. So this was a 6-inch piece. I've stretched it out. Now it's more like 8 inches. Tip this back so you can see the, yeah. So now it's more like 8 inches stretched out. On the hind legs, we just want to build this up a little bit. So I'm starting on the top of the thigh. And when I get to this bend, I want to do a little bit of that crisscross to fill in some of this space here. We're not going all the way down to the hock. I'm going, here's the bend. I'm going on to this middle bone, but then I'm going back up onto the thigh. And I want this wrap to be kind of ribbon-like so that I can stab it flat. We do this on the basket bunnies and on a lot of animals. So it just kind of rounds out that. They have great big thighs for jumping. Start at the top of the thigh. When I get down here, I'm gonna skip the knee, and I'm gonna skip right over to the other leg bone. And then real wide ribbon so that I can build up that flatten out that thigh. The wide ribbon lets you kind of cover a lot of territory and then manipulate it flatter, whereas a narrow ribbon really targets where you're putting your wool and gives you like more of a tight, movable or manipulatable.
Unmanipulatable.
Okay, let's get another 6-inch piece. This time we need less wool, so let's quarter it. Actually, split it in half, set half aside because we'll use that as a half, and then just quarter your other. On this leg, I want to start on the shoulder, go down to the elbow, and return to the shoulder. So I put my fuzz right onto the shoulder. I'm gonna wrap maybe 2 times down to the elbow and then turn around and then put my fuzz onto the shoulder. And that just pulls the whole joint together nicely. And I usually start by stabbing it from the inside out. I usually use 2 38s in my pen tool. Has the right amount of oomph for most projects. Every once in a while you need a little more. And so I do the other side. I start on the shoulder, go around, and then return to the shoulder. We want to do the same on the back legs, so let's get another 6-inch piece and split it in half. I feel like that's going to be a bit much. Okay, then do a quarter. You know, I've gotten very good at taking notes about the steps and everything, but one thing I don't write down all the time is how much wool I use to make the shape.
So you just figure it out
So
along the way.
start on the body, come around the thigh maybe 2 times,
You're a little bit almost off the camera.
and then
Okay.
return to the body. So it's the same movement. And that's thickening up and this skinny little, this is before and this is after. I'm not too worried about this fuzz because it's going to get another wrap. When I do the other side, it's the opposite way. So if I were ambidextrous, I would start on the body, use my right hand. Well, I'll just do it. So that's the right-handed way.
You
but
are almost ambidextrous.
Mine never turn out as good when I do it with my right hand. But it does make it a little more symmetrical to do that. So that just kind of fills in this thigh corner there. With that other half of that 6-inch piece, let's go around the body one more time. Just from the chest wrap part back, so just the back half of the body. Just gotta thicken all that up. We need a little bit more on the head. And then it's like time for shapes, which is crazy. Let's take another 6-inch piece and split it in half, set one half aside. Working with quarters is nice on something like the head. So this quarter of a 6-inch piece, we're just gonna put on the neck. So from the base of the neck up towards the head and back down. So that just thickened the neck up to kind of like the width of a little thicker than my pinky, my ring finger. And then this other one, we're gonna do this head wrap. So I'm going around the back of the head, over the nose, around the back of the head, and then I'm just gonna go right around the whole thing.
So if you had 3 needles in there right now, it would be.
I feel like it's too
problem.
much, yeah.
Well,
Plus,
hitting
when
more
you do,
wire.
yeah, when you do down the legs, you can actually go down next to a wire because you only have 2. Oh, it's gonna have a little nap. Okie dokie. I want to put a little contrasting fiber on the hock here, I'm gonna use tan. On one of my bunnies, not this one, but the one that I can't reach, I put tan here, and then when I put the white over it, I pulled a little bit out. Let me see, thank you. And then it just muddied it up a little bit. And they have a lot of color changes because of the seasons, so it's fun to have it. I like it not like perfectly white, like his ears have some color and his face has a little bit of color. So we have tan, and we want to take a 4-inch piece. Your tan might look a little bit different depending on when you get this kit. And then I want to quarter that well, just do half and set that aside because we might want to use that whole, and then quarter the rest of it. And so the wrap goes along the leg, and then when you get to this, I'm going to exaggerate the bend. You don't hit the bend, you skip to the foot bone and you crisscross in the center space. And that builds up a little bit of a bump. I did that like 2 or 3 times, and then just let the rest of the fiber taper out. So it's just like the head wrap. That's putting fiber into this corner. I'm usually a little bit better at this side. I always get it like a little more sharp. I don't know why. Something about the way my hand goes or something. All right, we're gonna get a little bit of, let me think. I'm gonna do one more wrap on the body. So what do we have? If you have a half of a 6-inch piece, I seem to have that, but I can't remember if that was a part of things. But if you don't, just pull a 6-inch piece and use about half. Or an 8-inch piece will probably get you a little further.
So rabbits and hares. Mm-hmm. Similar but different.
Mm-hmm. Like voles and moles.
What? I don't know what.
Turtles and tortoises. So it happens a lot in the animal kingdom.
Hares like to eat hard foods like twigs and bark, but rabbits go more with stems and grasses and vegetables.
Oh, I didn't know hares like to eat hard food.
I'd go for grass before twigs.
So right now I have like 2 12-inch pieces of off-white chunky core left. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
We still need some, but I'm going to set that aside and switch gears a little bit to the Serafina white, which is a little wiry. You'll be able to tell the difference between it and the bat because the Serafina white's very bright and it's a little bit wiry. I want to get some Serafina white onto the legs, so I'm going to work with about 5 inches split in half. I'm going to stretch it out. You don't want this too poofy. And then on the front legs, I'm just simply wrapping the front legs in Serafina white. And they can be a little thick. They don't have to, they're real fuzzy, so they don't have to be like super lean or anything. When I get down to the foot, My foot already has a nice amount of core wool on it, so I'm not going to add more fiber to that. We always suggest watching the video before you actually make the project, because that way you kind of understand what's next and why, why we're leaving certain things, less finished or more finished, or so it just helps to know what's next.
So hares are larger than rabbits.
Yes, yes.
Longer hind legs, larger feet, longer
Yes.
ears.
Yes, all that.
And hares burrow, they basically build a nest in the grass, whereas rabbits go underground.
Right. And I think they're social, like they're a little different socially. One does like warrens and dens. Maybe that's the rabbits. And the
Yes.
hares are a little more independent.
Well, the way they're born, newborn hares are born fully formed, eyes open, covered in hair. No
They got to be ready
no
to.
pun
They've
intended.
got to be ready to
They're
go.
ready to go. They do not require a lot of care. Rabbits are born helpless. They are
Yeah.
blind. They are naked. They cannot fend for themselves.
That's why they need the burrow.
Yep. That's why they nest in more protected dens underground. Hares are also happy solo, and
Yeah.
rabbits tend to like their little rabbit friends.
I have another 5-inch piece I'm splitting in half. I'm gonna stretch that out. And I'm gonna go on the tops of the hind legs. So I've got the front legs covered in the pretty white. And I'm just starting on the thigh because the pelt is gonna come here. So really, I'm just starting on the thigh. I'm going down onto this tan towards the hock, and then I'm going to go back up. And this I'm keeping more ribbon-like so that I can manipulate where it goes, and I'm returning to the thigh.
So is that the top coat?
This is the
On
top
the
coat.
part of the leg?
Yeah. And we'll hit the hock again too, but I'll do that after I put the foots together. The foots. Okay, I'm starting on the top of the thigh, coming down the middle of the leg, turning around. This is real thin and ribbon-like, and then finishing sort of fuzzy up on the thigh. And then always trying to stab it a little flatter from the inside out. Don't want like log thighs. We want like flat. So in contrast to the brown hare, which has a lot of chiseled shapes and details going on, the snow hare project, the way I make it anyway, is just getting a chest piece and then a lot of detail in the head, and then so there's a chest piece under here, a lot of detail in the head, detail in the foot, but the body is just poof, really. So not a ton more to do there. So the chest piece, we're going to go back to the off-white chunky core, and we're going to take a 6-inch piece and split it in half. And I'm going to use that. I'm going to stretch that out so I can get a good amount of wrapping. And I'm going to use the Zoli tool. Okay, this is the Zoli tool. This is the faces. Right now we're going to use the Zoli tool, and I'm going to, we had already pulled a 6-inch piece, but I'm switching to an 8-inch piece. And probably I'm gonna quarter it. It's more about the distance, the length of the piece to get all of the wrapping in, than actually needing more wool. So now I have a bit longer of a piece to do this. I want to wrap a 2 to 3 inch distance on the Zuli tool. And I always want to be able to go out and back. So that's where we just needed a little more wool. Because if you just go out, when you slide it off the tool, it's just going to undo. But if you go out and back, it stays in its in the form that you made. So this is going to be his little chest, just to make a prouder chest. And I'm putting it between the front legs, letting the majority of it kind of come back and be like a rib cage. And then the end of it just turning the corner and tucking in at his collarbones. So I'm kind of just tacking the edges on. And then coming back with it. I do this on a lot of animals, so if you've made other things with me, most of this process you'll recognize because it's pretty much all the same. Just a matter of proportions and placement. All right, so now he has a little more chest. Guess what, Milo?
What
We need to make ears.
Well, that's fun.
I know. Like we have to do like the finished ears
Ears before faces?
right away. Yes.